Hi, good morning, good evening, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Synergy training. I'm going to share my program. And Maggie is here with me, and she will be looking at the Q&A box and the chat. So I hope you've come with lots of questions. Please put them in the chat or the Q&A box, and Maggie will share them with the group, and I will show you, hopefully, how those questions can be resolved in the program. Um, I I did come with one question that was asked via email. And so let me show you that. So here is the question. So I would like to be able to look up remedies having to do with some pathology and limit it to certain books. I don't want to see every single rubric or mention of the condition. For example, I'm looking for constipated dry remedies, and I can use those specific words, but then I get too many hits. So I want to look at certain authors who are very good at explaining conditions such as Borland or Nash or Murphy, and I only want their books. So it's a refined search that the user wants to do. And then they're also saying, okay, maybe there are different ways to narrow down this search, and there are some other authors, but and maybe her library isn't that great. So she's also listening to a lecture on the gut. So I hear all kinds of detail on the rectum. So basically, you are reading something or listening to something, and your attention gets sparked, or you have some very specific ideas. So these are all the ways in which to refine a search. So we'll just use this a little bit and then see how, one could look for different ways to look at constipated dry remedies or mentions of constipation, a dry kind of constipation, I guess, is what this person is looking for. So we'll keep this here on the side so we can refer to it. Um, and I would go to the program. So obviously, the most direct search would be to just do constipated. Um, I would say in the same section as dry. I would not put in the same remedy as dry, because dry could refer to um, it would apply to so many different sections or chapters, right, in the repertory. So from the top of the head to the toes, dry would apply. So if you put constipated in the same remedy as dry, you're going to get a lot of irrelevant stuff. I'm saying in the same section as dry, because constipated will most likely appear in mostly the GI section. So maybe there might be something in stomach or abdomen, but for sure you will get something in rectum. So if I limit it to the section, now I could write rectum here as the section and filter it through that, but then I'm not pulling up anything from abdomen or stomach. So I'm just going to limit it to section, and I'm going to say, give me all and this is still a broader search than limiting it by authors or limiting it by rectum. So we can run the search and see what comes. And I haven't run this search before, so I'm going to be looking at it the same way you're going to be looking at it now, doing it live. So you can see that there are, almost 1,100 remedies, and that's still a very broad search. So now we can try, and we go back here, and I can type rectum, and we can see, so you see it pops up. When I type rectum, I get a little pop-up menu, and I can choose section. And when I unselect the search, you can see the rectum is blue. So that is now a filter that's going to run through this same exact search that we did before. And I don't want to override this, so we can compare a little bit later. And so I'm going to run this from here instead from here. And I hope everybody knows the difference. If I run the search from here, it's going to override this tab here. Each search is going on a tab. So if I run the search again from here, this second search, it will override this tab. But if I want to keep this previous search and run this as a new search, then I use the plus sign. When I do this, you can see it runs this on a second sign. So now you see if I just run this as a rectum search, then it's only 117 remedies, which is, a good enough, actually good size rubric. And if you can easily take it from here into your clipboard. So when I click this other plus sign down here, it opens the clipboard and it puts this search down here for me with 116 remedies. So let's go back here into search where we ran this search. Now, if we like, so let's see the authors that the user was interested in. So she wanted to see what Borland, Nash, and Murphy have to say about this. So now, obviously, you cannot run the search and say, give me results only from those authors who have a good explanation of pathology, because the program doesn't know what you think. That's a very subjective. So you have to, now when you limit the search by authors, you have to choose the authors. There is no way to say, give me the good pathology guys, or give me the good mentals guys, or give me, whatever method you're interested in. So let me just move this down. So you can filter, well, let's filter by, these authors that the user has asked for. So Boland, Nash, and Murphy. So how would you do that? So now we would run a third search, and this to the right, you see some icons, and we would come to the filter icon and we would apply a filter. So the way we would apply that filter is this is running already now as a reference library search. You see, we have no results in repertories. This is a reference library search. So I would apply the filter to the reference library. And then the first filter available here is books. So now these are, let's see what happens when I type Borland. Here we go. So Borland was one of the authors she mentioned. So here are all of Borland's books in the program in my library. So I'm going to say select all and apply. Now we can run this search for Borland, and I will run this again as a separate search and see what comes up. So actually he doesn't have anything. And so we don't get any results for Borland, at least. Now I can go back in here and I can say Nash, and you see all of Nash. I'm assuming this is the Nash she's interested in. And so I can select all that and apply. Now, if you go back in here, you can see what books are already selected in your search. So we can go to the I button, and you can see that Borland is still there, and so is Nash. But we already know that Borland didn't return anything. So this is my personal preference. You can leave it there, but I'm going to unselect or deselect Borland. I don't want Borland. I'm now only going to run for Nash. So I'm going to say apply. And now I will, so there is no really need because we didn't get any results. So I'm going to override the last search and I'm going to click this. See if Nash has anything. So Nash has one remedy. But you can see, if you read through, you can see that actually the dry is coming, even though it's in the rectum section, it's actually saying it's liable to be associated with a dry tickling cough. So actually, you see, the program in that sense will be somewhat mechanical, the search, because it will only search the references for the terms and the parameters that you have given in the search. So it did find constipation and dry in the same section, but we can now review it and say, okay, that doesn't really help because that's accidentally picking up a reference that doesn't work for us. Um, so I'm going to go back in the search, and now I'm going to look for, what was the third one?
Murphy.
Ah, thank you. Okay. So now this will obviously, because it's a reference library search, it's only going to pull up his materia medica. It's not going to pull up Murphy's rep. And if you like, I like, so I'm going to, so let me apply first, go back, and I'm going to take out, actually, you know what? I'm going to do that, apply, instead of deselecting everything single, and then just put Murphy back. Okay. So now, if you like, we can check again, and I only have Murphy. So apply. And then let's run that search. I don't need this search. I'm going to overwrite it. Let's see what Murphy has to say about constipated. So actually, we don't pull much this way. So now you don't have, I mean, you don't have to feel like you're at a dead end. I can always take, now I can take rectum out and now see if I get any hits with Murphy, and see if he has anything constipated in the same section as dry. So let's run that and see what comes up. So interestingly, if I take rectum out, I get constipated in the same section as dry, but now you're going to have to scroll through. And there are, you can see a lot of dry is associated with cough, dry weather, and it's in the same section. You can see it's still generalities. So might be better to just use, so I would take the filter out of authors and I would run basically this search. This is the search I like because it is talking about constipation in the same section as dry, and it's limited by rectum. So if you scroll through, you can see it's about rectum dryness, not all of it. I mean, the user also didn't specify that they're talking about a constipation with dry. They're talking about constipated dry remedies. Now, this, I mean, it would be useful if they were on the call to ask, are they just looking for general dryness in all the, in as a generality and in reflected specifically in different parts of the body? Plus constipation, or are they looking for a dry constipation? But I'm trying to show you, regardless of what they're looking for here, but I'm trying to kind of show you how to run a search and make it bigger or smaller. Always better to start bigger and then sort of drill down, either using specific parameters like sections or authors or groupings, remedy groupings. I mean, like I could run that search just for mammal remedies and see which remedies come up that have constipated in the same section as dry. And of course, then you start narrowing down, and so that is something I wanted to start with, was a question that came up. I don't know if there are other questions in the chat.
Donna is asking, she's saying that she's actually having a hard time finding rubrics. And she'd like to know, can we start from the beginning? And I suppose it's what are the various ways to find rubrics? And she gives two examples. She's
Okay.
looking for mind stubborn, or
Yeah.
she's looking for eye white discharge.
Okay. So there are many ways. Thank you, Donna. That's a great question. There are many ways to look for rubrics for those two. Actually, you know what? So I don't forget. here, I'll keep this here. Um, let's just shift this down. And so, and then,
I might discharge. And she's
yeah.
saying both of those rubrics are in the same case.
Yeah. Okay. So great. So there are many ways to go at this, Donna. You can go straight here and you can start here. Um, and I'm going to give a little spiel so you know that all your repertories will be on the left, and your repertories will be pinned to the top in the order that you like them to be, which you can do from user preferences. So mine, I have I have an older complete up at the top. So don't mind that. It can be a newer complete or it can be another repertory, whichever one you prefer. Um, so you could just come here and you can type ST, and it goes to ST, but let's go with STU and it goes to stubborn. So in the complete, you can see that there are no remedies for stubborn, but we still have that as a rubric. That means that there are cross-references here that would be helpful and would lead to similar sorts of rubrics or characteristics within the repertory. So I come to my settings and I turn my cross-references on, which I generally prefer off, and I will turn remedies off. Um, so there's not so much data to load and things will load faster. So then I say, okay. And you see, it loads the data for me and it hides what I wanted hidden, which is the remedies. And it now gives me some other rubrics that approximate to the quality of stubbornness. So you have contradict disposition 2, you have mind contrary, mind disobedience, mind obstinate. Um, there can be a sense of positiveness to stubborn in the sense that you positively believe what you believe and you are inclined to stick to it. And then obviously there can be some element of quarrelsomeness in the expression of your stubbornness. So it depends. You know your patient best. Um,
Donna is saying in this case, obstinate would be what she would choose.
Okay, good. So we can choose that. And it's also, the other thing you want to be clear about is how many remedies there are. I don't want super small rubrics. So we can take obstinate, headstrong. When we click on that, it takes us to that rubric. I'm just going to delete my old clipboard because that had that other. Okay, so we have obstinate, headstrong here, and then I'm just going to hit enter. Now, when you go to obstinate, headstrong, you can see also that there are cross references to obstinate, headstrong, and it always helps to also, like, you might feel like you have the exact right rubric, but it doesn't hurt to cast an eye on some of these other things like contradiction, ailments from maybe, defiant. There's dictatorial. We had disobedience already. We have firmness, pertinacity, which is really another way of saying tenacious or tenacity. It's an older way of saying it. Then you have rigidity. Um, and then there are Mirrlees themes, which are larger rubrics. They are somewhat approximate to Jeremy Sher's QREP, but I'm more familiar with the work Jeremy has done. But it's not going to come up here. But you can look if you're familiar with the repertory of mental qualities in the QREP. That might be something to look for. Obstinacy. Um, Maggie might know them by heart, all the different qualities, but I have to look at them. But here there are some others, and I don't know if Donna would want to put them on, but
Contrary, she's saying yes.
okay, good. So we go to contrary and we put contrary in. And there are others here. So, each rubric that you find through your cross references can take you to more cross references and more cross references. And that way you can really cover a very wide area of possible qualities that approximate to the characteristic that you're trying to represent in your clipboard for that patient. So this is one way to go directly from the repertory, right? The other way would be to put it here. And so I can just put stubborn here. Now, what this will do, the difference between going directly to the repertory and doing it here is that when you go to the repertory, you're choosing your repertory. And by choosing your repertory, in a way, you're limited to the rubrics that the author of that repertory has put in there. Even though you're kind of spreading your net wide using cross-references, etc., you're still limited to that repertory. When you put it up here, it's going to search all your repertories. And so when I put stubborn there, and I'm not even putting mind, so you can see that you get another rubric here, morose, sulky, stubborn. And then, of course, we already explored mind stubborn through the cross references. But you see now, I wouldn't go to the 24 because it's the same author, but you can look in Suggesta and you can see if there's anything in Suggesta. He doesn't have anything in mind. We can go to reliable. And again, it's the same. So we would have to turn the cross references on and check reliable. I'm actually interested to see if there's anything in QREP, and there isn't. But what you can do here, so we have sane, and it's the same. So try and see what comes up for stubborn, insane, and check his cross references. So you've got pretty much the sort of similar things. So that I think, so when you look now, you have,
Rupali, sorry to
yeah.
cut across you. Donna is asking, how do you actually get the rubrics into the clipboard?
Okay. So let's
And
here.
then, Donna, I don't understand your last comment. Do you click the search on the side or on the top? Could you just ask that one again? I don't understand what you mean. Sorry, Rupali.
No worries, no worries. So when you can, there are 2 or 3 ways to get the rubric in the clipboard. One is, just to highlight, and I'll delete this after so our clipboard is clean. But like there's one right here, right? So all I have to do is hit the enter key on my clipboard or on my keyboard or the return key, depending on the machine that you have. So I'm just going to hit the enter or return key and it tells you see new rubric added and now it's gone to 3. Come back in here. I'm going to open my clipboard. And so I had hidden my clipboard just to see the repetization. So we'll delete that. And you can come back here and you can also just drag and drop. So I just dragged it and dropped it up here. You can see it's back to 3. And then the same thing, if you are here, and we'll just put a random one, right? And then so over here in your search, when you come up from global search, when you ask and you get these, you can just click and hit enter again or drag and drop. So regardless of whether the rubric you're seeing is from the repertory side or from your search results, you can drag and drop or you can hit the enter/return key on your keyboard. And it will put those rubrics. So I'm just going to delete those because they don't make sense to our case.
And Rupali, Donna is also asking, she's pointing out that we have two, the two search icons there, the magnifying glass on the top
Yeah,
bar and
yeah,
again on the sidebar. And what's the
yeah.
difference between those?
Yeah. So the difference is that the first time you run a search, you hit the search button, which is the magnifying glass. And that's your first search tab. It's going to come here. Maybe you joined a little bit late and missed our earlier session, Donna, but basically every time you hit the search button, which is the magnifying glass, it will run that new search for you as if it's a new search. If you want to save the history of all the searches you have run, then you have to hit the plus button. And you can see that when I hover, it says open in a new tab. So what it will do is it will save all your old searches as tabs. And then when you run the new search, it will run it as a new search. So you can see that I think I must have been on this tab when we ran, when we initiated a search for stubborn. And then instead of hitting the plus button, I did the search button. So it overrode my second constipation search, actually. So we can get rid of all these searches so that you can see what I'm saying. We'll do that. So anyway, I think we've kind of exhausted stubborn here. So let's look at eye white discharge. So, I mean, for me, eye white discharge would be a simpler search to run from here. So I would say eye, and I would highlight section. So now it's going to look there. And then I'm going to say white within 2 words of discharge, because I'm assuming it's a white discharge. And I'm now going to, I have no searches in history, so I'm just going to run this as a search. And it gives me actually 2 rubrics. So we've got eye discharges of mucus or pus, white, and then I've got eye white, milk white, which is a single remedy rubric. So I'm assuming that we would want to choose this one, even though this is also a very small rubric. I'm just going to hit the enter key and add that. But now the other thing I can do here is come to the reference library. And you can see I discharge white, I discharge white. So this is relatively straightforward, and there are actually 24 remedies in here. So I would rather, this is a slightly bigger rubric, so I'm going to add this, and there may be overlap between the rubric we pulled from here in the repertory search and the custom rubric that I'm making by running this search in the reference library. And we can see that. You can see obviously there is overlap. And in fact, there are no remedies in the repertory rubric that are not also in the custom rubric from the reference library. So in order to prevent those remedies showing up and making a stronger statement, I'm going to delete the repertory rubric, because all of the remedies in the repertory rubric from the sane rep is already covered in the reference library. And so that's where you are. Now, if we were to go at this rubric from the repertory, I would want to see why no other repertories came up, because it seems like a white discharge from the eye should be relatively straightforward. So I'm going to go to eyes and I'll type discharge. I'm going to see if there's anything white, and there is. So I'm not sure why that didn't come up. We'll run that search again. So here's a 26 remedy rubric from the complete 2019. Oh, I clicked something wrong. Okay, let's try this again. I'm still in discharges. So let's type white. There we go. And I just hit the return key on my keyboard. It's now in here. So when you type something like that and I would have expected a much bigger result. And I'm wondering why I got such a small result. So then I'm going back and checking in the repertory, because this is a straightforward rubric. I know this is a rubric, and I'm wondering why it didn't come up in my search. So now let's try and run this search again. And I'm going to type it a little bit differently. I'm going to say discharge. And let's still do within 2 words of white. And let's do I expect. And this time you'll see, Donna, I'm going to use the plus button because I want to keep that old search. Let's see if this gives, and I don't have any filters. Oh, you know why? Okay, but this is pulling it up even with 2 words. Let's run this. Sorry, this is now like a mental problem, like I'm like, why is this not? So discharge, let's try in the same sentence as as white. Let's run that as a separate search and see what comes up. 25 remedies, which is about the same that what we pulled up earlier. Okay. And then let's see if I can do this discharge within 4 words of white. And I'm going to run this again. Okay. So I will take that back to the technical team to see why, because I don't think I have any filters on. Okay, we'll see why the other repertories are not coming up in this search, because we know and we already have that rubric. But let's go back to the clipboard. So here, so we have our clipboard, we've got our rubrics, and you can check now, you can see, I mean, this is 23, this is 23, and this is, so there are 3 remedies here. You can always check that. And there are some remedies in the reference library search that are not in the rubric. So what I would do to prevent overrepresentation of those remedies that are in both rubrics, I would take these rubrics and combine them so it eliminates the duplication. And the way you do that is to say, I discharge white. And now you have a custom rubric where you take your reference library search and your rubrics or repertory search and you combine them. And now you have a new rubric that you created, which has 30 remedies actually. And it's sort of removed the duplication and it's only given you all of the remedies that are there that are unique in both of those rubrics. And um, that's how I would go about generating rubrics. So you have 2 ways. You can either go directly, if you know that these are rubrics, you know a repertory pretty well, you can look directly in the sections you think that those rubrics would be found in, or this is your best friend. You can come up here and type exactly what you're looking for, or if you're not sure, it can be less exact and you will pull a bigger result and then you can sift through the bigger result or kind of drill down and make it more specific.
Donna is asking, can you show how to look into repertories?
Yes. So this is something that, I mean, in general, I think if you are or ever were at a homeopathic school, they will show you, you will start with a book, like a physical book repertory, and learn the structure of the repertory and how a repertory is organized. At least in North America, most schools start with the Kent repertory. And you learn the structure and the format of the repertory using Kent. And that pretty much, it's not the base for every repertory out there, but it's a standard base for many repertories. So generally, all your repertories that you have in the library that you own will be on your left-hand side. And when you click on the plus button of any repertory, it will drill down and go down one level or one hierarchy level into the chapters in the repertory. You see? So now if you have highlighted the repertory, then on the right will also be the chapters. So if you prefer to use the keyboard, You can also navigate using the keyboard. So I can go down, and I'm now using my keyboard arrow keys. You can do that. Or if you prefer the mouse, then you have the mouse, obviously, and you can go either through the left-hand side or the right-hand side. If you always use the same repertory, then you don't need to see this left-hand side pane, in which case you can always use this toggle button, which we also, remember, have on the clipboard. You can always use the toggle button to hide the left-hand pane, and then you kind of create a bit more room. So I'm in the eyes section. You have two ways to modify your views about what you see when you open a section within the repertory. You can go to this eye icon here, change view settings. If you change your view settings over here, they apply to every section and every repertory. They apply to the entire repertory module. This is sort of the master change settings option here. If you do the same thing inside the section, it only changes the views temporarily for that section and nothing else is affected. So for example, you can see I have my remedies turned on alphabetically. I have no subrubrics, no authors, no cross-references, and I have the remedy count turned on. And this is applied, you can see from here. So that's how everything that I open is going to look like this. But now, temporarily, and you saw me do that when I opened my cross-references, I can turn off remedies and I can turn on cross-references, and it changes the view here. But if I open another section, and this is also useful, you can, instead of clicking directly on another section, if you use the right click on a Windows machine or a control and click on a Mac. So I'm going to do that now. So let's open Face. And I'm going to hold down the control key on my keyboard and do a click. It gives me the option to open this chapter in a new window. So I'm going to say new window. And you see, now I have two chapters open. The new chapter opened with the global settings or the master settings that I have. So let me show you these. You see, these set the settings for the whole module. So when I open another chapter, it opens with those settings. But in here, I temporarily changed the settings to say no remedies and cross-references. So this chapter temporarily is showing a different set of settings. If you want, so I do this because this is how I like my repertory all the time. But if I have to look at cross-references, I just turn them on in the moment for whatever section I want them. And when I close this, they're gone. Those settings are gone now. So when I now open throat, you see it all opens with these settings. So now you can also, obviously, I can say no, generally my preference is no remedies also, actually, because then I can see a lot and I can lay out a lot more, I can here. So as soon as I change it on the global level, it changes automatically for all the sections that are open. And I can see a lot more rubrics. It doesn't take up room. And I'm not really checking the remedies because if I'm really concerned about the rubric, I'm not picking the rubric based on the remedies that are in there. So that's why I hide the remedies. I prefer to see my remedies on the clipboard when I see the repertorization. So this is how my settings are all the time, generally. And then when you're in here, obviously the rubrics are all alphabetized. So the way to jump to a rubric that you're looking for, and you know how that rubric starts, or like for example, we were looking for stubborn. Let's say we're looking for contrary. Well, except so let's go back here in the mind. and we are now at stubborn, but now you want contrary, then I would just type the first three letters or four or as many as you want. But generally, I typed CON and it will bring me to the first rubric that starts with CON, which is still a little bit further away. But you see, if I had my rubrics turned on, I wouldn't see contrary right away in that first screen. I would have to scroll down or I would have to type CONT. But now I can just see contraries there and I can click it and either drag it or enter. And so that's how you navigate within. I also don't have subrubrics turned on, but once I'm in contrary, for example, anything that has a plus sign, it shows you that there is a level below. So then I would just press the right arrow key and it takes me to the rubrics below and I can choose whatever I want, and then hit the return key or enter key. And then I use the left arrow key to get back up one level. And then now I'm up like at the mind level. You can go further up because that is the main level in the mind chapter. If I hit the left arrow key one more time, it takes me to the first rubric in that chapter. So this is if you prefer to navigate using your keyboard, which a lot of people do. And if I hit it one more time, then it brings me back to the main. So you see, it closes that and it brings me back to the main repertory level. And then I can navigate. And I'm just using the left arrow key now. I'm not using my trackpad or mouse. And then you can, navigate. And let's say I want to be in skin. I hit enter. And now I can, I can go to just type DIS and it takes me to the first rubric and I'm just navigating using the keys now, and you can come back. So that's how you navigate within the rubrics, within the repertory.
Okay.
Yeah. Any other questions?
Yes, we have Rupali. Lisa is asking, is there a way to find female themes in the program, like hormonal, reproductive, such as PMS and menopause and pregnancy?
Rubrics?
It's kind of a broad question, but female themes.
Uh, I'm not sure what female themes means. If you're looking for all of the rubrics that would fit problems associated with the female chapter and hormonal reproductive issues, your best bet would be to study the female chapter in detail. I mean, the female chapter is all about hormonal slash reproductive issues. I mean, there are issues relating to libido and dryness, specific, tumors and things that are not hormonally related. But like hormonal, I guess, PMS and menstrual issues and I assume miscarriages, abortions, themes related to pregnancy, labor, all of it would be in here. Generally, themes relating to pain, stemming from either PMS or menstrual cramps or labor cramps might also be found in the abdomen section. So you should also absolutely, if you're interested in pain or stomach related, things that affect that general physical area, then you can also look in the abdomen section. And then, of course, you should definitely look in generalities and mind. So I think it would depend on what you were, I mean, it's a very broad question.
She has clarified it is the rubrics that she's talking about, so you are in the right.
Yeah,
Right.
right. So then, I mean, female is really a very good chapter to study
Mhm.
deeply to find all those themes. And then, depending on the patient, like I'm saying, you will have rubrics also in mind, in generalities, in abdomen. And then, if there are concomitants related to some of these conditions, like you might have palpitations, for example, as part of PMS, or you might have increased palpitations during labor. It depends, right? You will have concomitants.
Mhm.
Then you will obviously look in the relevant section for those concomitants. But I think your best bet would be to start with the female section and the generalities section.
On a slightly related topic, Rupali, I don't know if you have it in your program there, but the Yingling childbirth repertory.
Yes, yeah. So yeah, I don't know. I might not have downloaded it.
I don't know. That's a
No.
good one. Hmm.
Yes, that is a good one. And in fact, since you're mentioning it, let me show. So you can always come here, and if you end up buying a new repertory, for example, then you can come and you can come here and say add repertory. In system, you will obviously get, but here, this is the repertory that Maggie is referring to, is Yingling's childbirth emergencies repertory. And this is also another, obviously, very good repertory for these issues. Um, and I
Okay.
have that. So I'm not going to set that now. I'm not gonna, go ahead. What next?
Okay. Irina is asking, she said she has saved a repertorization into the wrong patient's file by accident. Is
Hmm.
there a possibility to transfer this to the right patient?
So let's see. Um, Okay, let's open this one. So simple acute repertorization. So, and relating to female issues. So I think what we have to do is you cannot take a repertorization from one patient and transfer it to another. I will ask also, but what I can think of like right away is to just go to the repertorization, do a Command C or a Control C, open a new clipboard. So basically duplicate it. Um, and so it's just copying those rubrics, right? And then I'm going to go back to my patient right here, and I'm going to close the patient. And now I have this clipboard, and I can now say save to an existing patient, save this clipboard to the right patient, and then go back and delete it from the previous. You can't just drag so I'm going to say save to existing patient. It's going to ask me who to save it to. I'll just save it to Roger Morrison's case. Open. And now that's the existing clipboard for, it's just a clipboard I created for Roger. So there's 18 remedies on there. That's his clipboard. And the 9 is his other clipboard. And now I've got this one. So when I try to save it to an existing patient, I have the choice to update the existing session or save as new. So I'm going to say save as new. And now it's going to ask me which ones I want to save. And the one that we actually want to save is this one, number 2. So I'm going to, it's default clicked 3 and 4 because those are the 2 that are associated with the previous session. So I'm going to take these out. I'm just going to say clipboard 2, and I'm going to say save. It says patient updated successfully. You can see that there's a new line created. This is our clipboard for Donna. So I'm going to just to keep it like, she would probably save it to her another patient, but I'm going to delete it for now. Um, right? So now I have only one clipboard associated with this new patient, well, with the existing patient, the right patient, and I've saved it to them. I'm going to close this so that closes now. And what I'm going to do is go back to the patient that I erroneously saved this thing to and delete. So it's a little bit manual, but I can't really like have two patients open, take this clipboard and just drag and drop into the other patient. That's not possible at the moment. So I would duplicate the clipboard, save it to the right patient, and then delete from the wrong patient. That's what I would do. So this is from today. So I'm going to delete this session. There. So now my Roger case is cleaned up as well. Any other questions, Maggie?
Lisa is asking how to, for example, combine skin symptoms with emotional symptoms.
How to combine skin symptoms with emotional symptoms?
Yeah.
Well, it depends on what emotional symptoms your patient is having while they're having skin symptoms. You would just put them on the same clipboard.
Mhm.
Um, unless you're asking for a rubric that has mind symptoms as well as skin symptoms in the same rubric, then it would probably be something like anxiety while itching, or like it depends, right? It would really depend on what mind symptoms or emotional symptoms your case has. You would put them on the clipboard, and then you would look at what skin symptoms your case has. You would put them on the clipboard. So where you actually combine the two symptoms is on the clipboard. You don't really try to find, if unless they exist, and sometimes they do. If you think that these are two things that are happening to the same person and they're part of the same case, then the combination is better done on the clipboard. If the patient is experiencing severe emotional symptoms at the same time as they're having skin aggravations or skin symptoms, then yes, you try and look for rubrics that express both things, so the combination happens within the rubric. But if there are things that are happening in the case and not in that same moment in time, then the combination happens in the clipboard, right? You're putting all the characteristic things about your patient on a clipboard. So if they have emotional symptoms, you get them on the clipboard. If they have female symptoms, you put them on the clipboard. If they have skin symptoms, you put them on the clipboard. That's where everything comes together. But like, you can say skin, and that's a section. So we're going to say section. Yeah. And then you can put whatever emotional symptoms you think. So I'm just going to put anxiety, and I'm looking now for anxiety within the skin chapter. And you can look for that. The other way to do that would be to say mind. I would say section, and then give me any symptoms that have skin in them. And now see, I'm going to run that as a separate search. And you see there are a lot. There's some anxiety, there's some delusions, there are dreams, there's restlessness when you see, so then, but these are like concomitant symptoms. So unless they're happening at the same time, such as, restlessness with dry skin, um, or suicidal disposition because of the itching of skin, then you pull these. But if your patient is suicidal, but also at the same time has itching, then you don't pull these. That's the difference.
Okay, thanks, Rupali.
Mhm.
I think that's all the questions.
Good, and we're at time.
Mhm.
So thank you, everyone. That was great. Really interesting questions. And we will see you next month. Have a great March. And if it's spring, enjoy spring. And we'll see you in April. Thank you, Maggie.
Thanks, Rupali. Bye bye.
Bye.